The first thing we need to align a tape machine is our calibration tape. This is an MRL test tape, and they come in different speeds, they come in different levels. So we're going to take this tape, put it on the machine, and this is what we'll calibrate the machine with. It's important to check what operating level this tape is. They're different tapes, they're bought over different periods of time, and the level has been changing. Right now the current level is 520 nanowebers per meter. That's the reference fluxivity, or the strength of this magnetic tape, is measured in nanowebers per meter. Most tape machines now are operating at 520 nanowebers per meter. That's 9 dB above the NAB standard, which is 185 nanowebers per meter. So it's very important to check your MRL test tape and see what level it is. If this test tape was 250 nanowebers per meter, it's 6 dB below the current standard of 520 nanowebers per meter. So you'll have to set all of your levels to -6. You would not adjust the machine to 0, because this would be a 250 nanoweber test tape, which is 3 dB above the NAB standard of 185 nanowebers per meter, but it's 6 dB below the current operating level of most tape machines, 520 nanowebers per meter. Now there's a chart that you can check, and it's just check it out. It'll show you what level you should be putting on the meter. So this tape is actually 520 nanowebers per meter, so we can set all the levels to 0. But if the tape were 250 nanowebers per meter, 6 dB below our standard of 520, we would have to set all of our meters to -6 dB. So we'll put the tape on the machine and we'll start aligning. Okay, now we have our tape on the machine. I know that this is parked right in front of 1 kilohertz, so we have 1 kilohertz. If you don't have a slate or a label on the tape, it's important you should listen to it and make sure you are actually listening to 1K. We don't need to listen to it. I know it's there. It's labeled there. The tape machine is in tape. That means that we're monitoring the repro head, the reproduction head, and we're going to align the reproduction head with the MRL test tape. So this MRL tape is our standard, and that's what we're going to use to calibrate the machine. This tape has been calibrated, and we're going to align the machine with it right now. So the very first thing I do is number 3 on your sheet. It's going to be reproduction level. So I open up the machine. I go to track 1. I'm going to adjust reproduction level on track 1. I hit play. We are looking at the reproduction head. This is repro. And I go to repro level, which is number 3 on your sheet. And I adjust reproduction level of track 1. And I set it to 0. This tape is 520 nanowebers per meter test tape, so I set our reproduction level to 0. That's the desired level we want. Okay, so now we're going to set the Q level. We're going to set the reproduction level of the Q head. We've set the reproduction level of the repro head, or the playback head, and now we're going to do the sync head, or the record head, and we're already parked at 1 kilohertz, so we've switched the machine from monitoring these meters from the repro head, and now we're monitoring the sync head, or the Q head. So all I have to do is hit play, and I adjust number 9 on your sheets. I go down to Q level. With 1 kilohertz, I set that to 0. So now we've aligned repro head level with 1 kilohertz. We've set that to 0. We've aligned the Q head level. We set that to 0 with 1 kilohertz. Now I'm going to fast forward, and we're going to do Q high speed, high frequency, which is number 7 on your sheets. So I find 10 kilohertz. We use 10K to align high frequency reproduction. There it is right there. Again, I can double check this because it's been slated. I've written on the leader tape here. Just check that. Good. 10 kilohertz. So I hit play. Now number 7 on your sheet is Q reproduction high frequency. So I adjust that right now. High speed, high frequency. And I set that to 0. So we've aligned the Q head completely now. We've done the Q level with 1 kilohertz, and we've done Q high speed, high frequency with 10 kilohertz. Now I'm going to switch the machine back to repro. Now that the tape is parked at 10 kilohertz, I'm going to set reproduction, high speed, high frequency with 10 kilohertz. Alright, so we switched the tape machine back to repro, so now we're monitoring the reproduction head. We're going to do number 1 on your sheets. We're setting reproduction, this head, high speed, high frequency, 10 kilohertz. We have the tape still at 10 kilohertz, and I'm going to adjust the high speed, high frequency level, number 1 on your sheet. And I set that to 0. Okay, good. Now we're finished with the MRL tape. We've taken the calibration tape and we've set all the calibration levels. We've set the reproduction head, we've set the level, general level using 1 kilohertz, then we've set the high frequency level with 10 kilohertz. We've adjusted the Q head with this calibration tape. We've set the reproduction level of the Q head using 1 kilohertz, and then again the high frequency reproduction using 10 kilohertz. And we're done with the MRL test tape now. We can take this off, and now we're going to start recording and start calibrating our record levels. So I can take this tape off now. We're finished with it. Okay, now we have a blank record tape on the machine. We're going to adjust the bias of the machine, and we have to do that by putting the machine into record. We're sending 10 kilohertz from the console at about minus 6 dB. We're going to turn the bias control counterclockwise until the meter goes up, and it'll stop rising up. It'll peak. Then I'm going to go clockwise, the opposite direction, and our overbias setting is 2 dB for this tape. Now you're going to have to consult your chart and see what the overbias is for the branded tape that you're using. I know the overbias for this is 2 dB, so when I set the bias, again, we're doing number 10 on your sheet. I go counterclockwise until the meter peaks, then I go clockwise until it drops 2 dB. That's my bias setting. So I'm going to hit play. Now, we're currently playing. You won't see anything on this tape till I hit record. Now you see the meter is at minus 6. I'm setting the 10 kilohertz tone at minus 6 from the console. I'm leaving myself a little room. I don't do this setting right at 0, because if I'm going up from 0, I'm probably going to go too high, higher than the meter can go. I'll get an inaccurate reading. So I'm setting the bias tone at minus 6 dB to give myself some room to peak the meter with. So using number 10 on your sheet, I go to the high speed, high frequency, high speed bias. I'm turning the meter counterclockwise. It's rising, rising. Now it's peaked. So now I go clockwise until the meter drops 2 dB. That's the overbias setting for this tape. There. I've successfully set the bias for that channel. And I just do the same for every other channel on the machine. Okay, we're finished the bias now, and now we're going to do the record level. So on the tape machine, I'm looking at the reproduction level. I have all the tracks in record ready. From the console, I'm sending a 1 kilohertz tone at 0 dBVU. That's plus 4 dBm or 1.23 volts. So the console now reads 0 VU. I'm sending a 1 kilohertz tone. This will be our record level. Because I've calibrated the reproduction head with the MRL test tape, I'm going to put the machine into record, and I'm looking at the reproduction head. I'm not looking at the record head, I'm looking at the reproduction head because it's been calibrated. I know the console is sending 0 dBVU, so now I adjust the record level so that this meter, the reproduction meter, indicates 0 VU, so everything's going to match up. So I set record level with 1 kilohertz, and I adjust that record level till the repro meter reads 0 VU. Okay, we're sending 1 kilohertz from the console still. So now we're going to set the input level. So we're looking at input on the tape machine. This is going to be number 6 on the strip there. So when we hit record, we're not monitoring off the cue head, we're not monitoring off the repro head. When we hit record, we're actually monitoring the input level. So the input level has to match the record level and the repro level. So we're setting that with number 6. I don't need the machine to be running. We're just looking at straight input. I can see there's the tone I'm sending down. It's off a little bit. So adjusting number 6, input calibration. I'm adjusting the input level. So when we're in record, we are in monitoring an input. There. Now my input level is set exactly to 0. Okay, now we've switched from input back to tape, and we're going to do the high frequency record level. So using the MRL test tape, we calibrated the repro heads, high frequency. So we're going to look at the repro head and send 10 kilohertz high frequency from the console to the tape machine at 0 VU, that's plus 4 dBm or 1.23 volts. We're going to record. So now we're in record, we're seeing from the machine, from the console, we're seeing 10 kilohertz at 0. And because I've adjusted the repro head, I'm in record. We can look at the repro head and adjust our high frequency, high speed record level. That's number 4 on your sheet. And I adjust that so it reads 0 VU on the tape machine. So I've set my record level because I had calibrated my repro level with the MRL test tape previously. Okay, now we're going to adjust the low frequency reproduction level. Because we've calibrated the record level of the machine, I'm setting 100 hertz at 0 from the console. I'm going to place the machine in record, and now we're going to adjust number 2, the low frequency reproduction level. So at number 2 on your sheet, so I go to high speed, low frequency reproduction level, and I set my repro level to 0. Okay, now that we've adjusted the reproduction low frequency level, we're going to adjust the cue head low frequency reproduction level. To do that, I need to record about a minute of 100 hertz on the tape. Once I've recorded a minute of 100 hertz on the tape, I'm going to play that back, and I'm going to set number 8 on your sheet, the cue high speed low frequency reproduction. So I've just recorded about a minute of 100 hertz on this tape. I can rewind it and play it back, and now I adjust number 8 on your sheet. It's cue high speed low frequency, and I set the meter to read 0. And the machine is completely aligned now.